Next example is going to be really, really simple. I've got two different images of a surfer, a girl surfer, and we're going to be combining them together just to create a little bit more of a story. You can definitely do any type of photo. I would think that doing something like in the wedding market would be really interesting, like a picture of a bride and then maybe like a close-up of the same bride or whatever, using both of them to kind of tell a story. So in this case, we've got two images of a surfer girl, and we're going to be bringing them together. So I've got this image. We're going to just pop right over top here, and then we're going to be changing our blending modes. So this is just going to be a little bit of an example in how to use blending modes. All right, so before we get into it, let's go ahead and talk about blending modes, what they are, how you use them, and getting to know the different blending modes. Because when I was first starting out in Photoshop, I clicked here and I was like, oh, that's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I was like, oh, I'll just click on one. It wasn't for like at least a year later that I realized that the blending modes they're divided into sections. So up at the top you have your normal section. You have normal and dissolve. Dissolve, by the way, I rarely use, and it seems like it's the case for most of these sections. So we have the normal section, the darken section, the lighten section, the overlay section, the difference, and then the color section down here at the bottom. Photoshop's done a really good job of grouping these by common use. So for instance, darken and multiply, you're going to be using quite a bit more than linear burn. Lighten and screen, you're going to be using a lot more than linear dodge. Things like overlay and soft light, I use those a lot. Like I've maybe used pin light once or twice in the entire time that I've used Photoshop, because they tend to just be a little bit maybe harsher effects or a little bit more specialized. If you want to do like funky graphics and things like that, you know, things like subtract, exclusion, difference, and divide, those are great. But for normal photo editing, I'd recommend sticking toward the top of each group. So if I had to say, you know, that there were, you know, let's say 6 blending modes that I would use quite often, it'd be darken and multiply, lighten and screen, overlay and soft light. That's the majority of what I use. Now, if you do want to work with your color, you can do that down here as well. But I'll tell you, most of the time, I don't know what I'm going to pick. Most of the time, I have no idea I'm going to use soft light or I'm going to use the linear light. Most of the time, I just flip through them. So I'm going to show you guys the keyboard shortcut for that, because it makes it a lot easier to just be able to flip through all your blending modes really quickly and not have to like decide before you actually do it. So first thing you want to do is hit V for your move tool. And that's actually really important, because when you're on your move tool, that's going to be basically default, and that'll select your layer. All right, so V for the move tool, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click the plus and the minus. And you can see on my blending modes, we're just flipping through them. So as I go through, I'm able to just go through all of my blending modes, and then it's really just up to me to decide what I like the best. And we can see now, instead of just a totally normal image, we can see these two images are actually starting to blend together. All right, and we can do this in any way we want. We can do one layer on top of the other, and I'm going to work on changing the blending modes of each to kind of see how those play together. All right, well, let's stick to something like this for now. We're going to wind up changing that in just a little bit, and we can decide, you know, if we want to keep our portrait image or the landscape. And for this case, I'd actually like to keep our landscape normal, and we're going to keep the portrait normal, and we're going to be editing the landscape. So I'm going to go ahead and use the crop tool and change our crop from horizontal down to vertical. We're going to bring this up just a little bit as well. There we go. So we can see just changing our crop gets us a totally different picture. And this would be, you know, you could have like if you had a brand name or something like there, you could do a lot with combining multiple images. Let's try changing this back to normal. Okay, and then we're going to place this layer over top, and then I'm going to change the blending mode of this layer. So you're going to see how the blending modes and the order, they influence each other. So again, V for the move tool, we're going to hold the Shift key and click on the plus. There we go, moving through our layer blend modes. All right, until we find something we like. And this is, you know, this is definitely as good a strategy as any. I would say a lot of the time, this is what I'm doing. I'm clicking through and I'm figuring out, hey, I like that or I don't like that. That looks pretty nice, actually. I kind of like the darker there. Let's see. I'm going to keep going. That's on multiply. All right. That's kind of nice as well. I'm going to try lowering the opacity as well. So we're working with blending modes. I'm going to lower the opacity. There we go. So we can kind of get a little bit different of effect when we're working with our subject. All right. I'm just switching through them. All right. There we go. That's really cool because we do have like a really nice, let's just make this a little bit larger. We do have a really nice sunburst effect. So it's basically like two images. Well, I think it was a little more, what do you think? It's a little more clear, smaller, right? Yeah. So basically I'm seeing two images of my subject. Let's go ahead and take care of this bottom area because it is, you can see the edge just kind of like drops off really quickly. So I'm going to place a layer mask on my layer. We're going to use our gradient tool. So G for the gradient tool. And I'm going to paint with a foreground to transparent gradient and go straight up. Just like that to let it blend out very smoothly. All right. And then we're basically, I want to just get, there we go, a selection that's, all right, going to define our subject. All right. Now we're going to do a couple more things. I just want to warm this up just a little bit because I think we lost a little bit of the really nice warmth there and the solar flare. The sun flare, I don't know what it's called. Yes. Let's bring this over here. I'm going to add a little bit of red, which is going to add a little bit of red. And we're going to take our blue channel, and I'm going to pull this down a little bit. The opposite of blue is going to be yellow. So if you ever need yellow, just go to your blue channel and pull that down just a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now I can just paint this in. You could use a brush tool. You could use a gradient tool with a round gradient. There are many different ways you can do this, but this is just going to help that color blend back in so it doesn't look so, it doesn't look so washed out there. All right, very, very cool. So now we're free. We can change this any way we want. I can move this around. If we decided we wanted this, if we wanted her to be somewhere else. I think I like having her centered in the other image. But feel free. You can always change these things, and you can change multiple blend modes at the same time. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. I like that. What do you guys think? It's unanimous. Everyone's like, yes, that's amazing.